everyone, I'm Emily the Fangirl. If you're interested in tech travel and working in Asia, then go ahead and click that subscribe button. I talk to a lot of people in Asia about their own personal careers and journeys, as well as my own here in Singapore. If you haven't seen the videos on my channel, I've moved around a lot. I think I moved around 4 times, from Boon Keng to Somerset to Pinnacles like Tanjong Pagar area, and now around central Singapore. I wanted to do a video on the pros and cons of co-living because I got a lot of questions regarding that, what my experience was like, and just around like the pricing and what it was like to make new friends while living at a co-living space. So I'm gonna do my best to give you the pros and cons for everything and hope you find this useful. So I'll go with the cons of co-living. Co-living in Singapore is quite expensive. I paid $1,650 for a common room in Somerset, and that was a smaller room, a medium-sized room that could fit a queen bed, and it also had a shared bathroom. So I was living at a 3-bedroom, 3-bath condo in the middle of Somerset. You know, when I compare it to San Francisco prices, it still is relatively cheap because I did come from a very high cost of living city, which is probably one of the most expensive places to live besides Hong Kong. So when I came to Singapore, I felt like, okay, this is something I can afford, it's not so bad. But I later found out that I was actually paying way more than I should be, according to all my Singaporean friends. So that kind of didn't sit well with me, and I didn't want to be paying so much if I could pay less for a place that was a little bit more spacious or not so close to the malls. Because I also didn't know that Somerset was really just shopping, and I didn't feel like I was living a local Singaporean life. I felt like I was living a regular expat life and living in the big city with lots of shopping, and that's not what I wanted. The thing about co-living is that you get paired up with random people. So I went with Cove, which is a co-living platform. It's very similar to Hamlet, if you've heard of Hamlet. Hamlet is definitely more well known, but there's Cove, Hamlet, and a few others that I can link in the caption below. But what you can do is you can take a look online, at least for Cove. You can see who is already living there, you know, their name, their title, maybe like the company that they work at. So you have an idea of, okay, I'm living with, you know, this male who is an entrepreneur, or this woman who works in engineering, etc. So you have an idea of like who you might be living with, but it really is picking a raffle. You don't know who they really are. You don't know how their lifestyle choices are. I wouldn't say living with random people is a bad thing. I think it really just depends on like personality and certain expectations you have of your housemates. Like my previous housemate, she was from Korea and she was a dermatologist. She was very, very, very clean. And I wouldn't say I'm super clean, but I'm the kind of person who will wash dishes at the end of the day because I'm busy and I have things to do and I can't get to them right away. And for her, she wants them washed immediately. So that was an interesting situation to navigate through, and we had to talk about that and meet each other halfway because technically you didn't meet as friends first, you met as housemates first. So it's about having clear, open communication with your new housemates. All right, let's talk about the pros now. The pros of living at a co-living space is that it helps you meet people. I think if you were living in a studio by yourself, you might not be able to meet other expats or other people who are staying at Cove. I will say though that their whole marketing is around like building a community of like-minded people, travelers, expats, professionals. But the issue is with COVID, not a lot of people are able to kind of intermingle. Cove used to have these events where everyone from different units could come together and do like a happy hour or, you know, attend an event together. Obviously, we aren't able to do that. So for me, my experience was that I had cool housemates, but I never got to be really good friends with them. We didn't have dinner parties and we didn't have life-changing conversations. So just know that the marketing around it might not be the real deal. I would really say that the 3-month minimum lease is very helpful for expats For me, when I came over here, it was really hard for me to find a place because everyone wanted me to sign like a 6-month lease or a year lease, and I wasn't sure how long I wanted to stay. Also, it's just very frictionless. Like the furniture is already there, everything's kind of just bundled up together. So when I paid $16.50 for my common room, all the utilities, the Wi-Fi, aircon, everything was just bundled up. And I thought that was great because I could just pay a flat fee per month and not worry about it. And I didn't have to worry about a thing. I didn't have to even buy chopsticks because everything was provided. So they provided me with all the basic furniture, the bed frame, the entire living room was furnished, and it was very chic and modern. They do a good job with that as well to really like appeal to newcomers. And yeah, they had a washer and dryer. They had all the basic kitchenware and random things. I'm trying to think what's useful for people to know. As I came in with my luggage and I just started living my life. I think that is a really, really big pro for people who just want to kind of transition into their life in Singapore a lot more easily. The great thing too is that Cove obviously runs like a business, so when you have issues, you have clogged toilet or broken light or something happens, you can contact these businesses and they always have a team on hand. Whereas I feel like if you had lived with if you're living at a rental, you might just have an agent, one person, and this agent is probably managing like 20 different properties or 20 different tenants. So for me, being able to contact the business, which was Cove, was quite helpful. We would have basically 30-minute turnover response times. They would file a ticket for us. Things would move a lot more faster, and I really appreciated that because I don't know if this is such an American thing, but we like to get things done like quickly and efficiently. So I think having that with Cove was a really great benefit. There is more of like a sense of urgency too, I would say. Maybe it's because we pay so much, so they're like, okay, the service that we offer also has to match the price point that they're paying. I also want to just give some advice to those who are considering living at a co-living space. I will say that because of COVID, a lot of units are empty. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that these businesses are trying to pivot and change their business model. Even with Hamlet, they're trying to become a furniture store. They're selling furniture, they're renting their furniture. So I'm not really sure how well these businesses are doing. And I also saw one of the business leaders, I'm not going to say which company, but I saw her on Facebook and she was also posting about empty units. It's hard. A lot of people are moving out, people are breaking their leases. The benefit of that as a renter is that it is a renter's market. So you have the purchasing power, and if you want to live and move to a new place, you should negotiate and you should look at multiple units. If I were negotiating, which I think in most situations you should always negotiate, if you see a unit that you like at a different company, you should talk about it and say like, hey, I saw this price point here, but yours is a little bit more expensive. You should leverage it against each other. You should really explore the area, even talk to like the guards downstairs to see, okay, is there like construction going on? Did anything crazy happen recently? At my new place, it took us roughly a month and a half to kind of explore and decide that this was the place that we wanted to be in. So if you're considering making the jump to a co-living space, definitely weigh your pros and cons. Also, I would say that, and this is such a side tangent as well, I know that a lot of my Singaporean friends just like don't want to live at home anymore because COVID has made them so like antsy living with their parents. And I understand that. I do. It's hard being in someone's space or having them in your space all the time. So a lot of my friends were like, I want to move out, like I want my own place. And if you want to do that, maybe Cove or co-living space, I'm not a brand ambassador, is a good start if you want to explore that option. I kind of miss like the warmth and love of a family or like living with a family. And also you just save a lot more money. So Again, I mean, that's just my perspective, but if you do want to move out, I think 3 months is a good way to kind of test it out and see how it is. Yeah. I eventually left the co-living space because, one, I didn't want to pay so much money for a common room, and I didn't want to live in Somerset. So I wanted to live somewhere that was more local, and it just made me feel I wasn't living in a big shopping mall. Somerset is a nice area, don't get me wrong, but I'm not really into shopping. So that's why I just didn't want to be around that area. I felt like there's so many other neighborhoods that I could live in and enjoy. After living in Somerset, I decided it was time for a change. The other thing I would say is, for me, I wanted to live with like friends of friends. I wanted to live with people that I felt like I could invite people over, have dinner parties, and just have more of like a family type of feel. The 2 people I lived with before at this co-living space were really great, but one of them was just always really focused on his work. He was an entrepreneur. He like rarely came out for just to chat or anything like that. He was just so focused on doing his own thing. And then the other girl was out all the time visiting her boyfriend in Sentosa and just working. And then for me, I was kind of like, okay, like this is cool. And I was trying to explore and figure out my own life. So it was a very interesting experience, but I did not get the whole like community experience that I wanted. And the community building just came naturally as I started to explore Singapore and meet more of my own friends and people who are like-minded. And now I'm just really happy with where I am. I live with one other person in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. I'm really glad that I was able to do a co-living space before all of this because it definitely helped ease my stress. So consider that. I think they were great, and we kind of just all moved on with our lives afterwards. So I hope you found this was helpful, and again, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Other than that, I will talk to you soon. Peace.